Welcome to the Wrinkly Brain Podcast. This is a podcast, an offshoot of the Smooth Brain EDH YouTube channel. Go subscribe, where we're going to talk about EDH and our lives as a side bit, mostly EDH. I am your host, Ethan. I do the intro bits on the channel, and I have been one of the founding members. And I'm joined today by Cameron and Jason. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Cameron. I've been playing Magic for a while, for about 5 years. EDH is our primary format at this point. We used to play others. We'll delve into that at some point, I'm sure, but we're mainly EDH.
I'm Jason. I've been playing since around the original Theros block, and you haven't seen me on the channel quite yet. The videos that I was in got corrupted because, boy, is my luck great. But you will be seeing me hopefully in a week or two. We have gotten to do some recording since then.
Jason ended up moving away back over the summer, and with him not being here, obviously it causes some issues with getting videos recorded. But we started recording some webcam games, which should hopefully be up and keeping content more consistent, especially over the holiday season, which we just got past. Black Friday and the holiday shopping season, and our editor works retail, so kind of rough there.
And also just spending time with our families. It's hard to make time for Magic all the time. But hey, speaking of playing Magic, we do that.
No way.
We should probably say how we started.
Yeah, well, you guys kind of mentioned that. Cameron and I started, we were roommates in college. We were roommates. We started in college. I started in 8th Revolt block, and I think you started like 2 weeks before I did.
That's correct.
And deck builders toolkits. It was just a mess. We played kitchen table.
Fat packs and just building crap we had with fat packs.
Our other roommate Logan just bought a Dark Depths and a Merit Lodge token and just ruined us. So we had to say we played Modern. We had to declare a format because of Merit Lodge. So
one Vampire Hex Mage, one Vampire Hex Mage, one Merit Lodge, and maybe a Thespian stage.
I don't even know if we played the Thespian stage.
That interaction's weird.
He slow thawed me one time. It took 20 minutes for him to slow thaw me, and I said, "We're never playing this ever again. We're playing Modern now."
Good to know he got started on Dark Depths early.
He's always been an asshole. He has always been an asshole when it comes to Magic.
But we started at, so from there we played some Modern, and we played Modern for a year and a half, 2 years, and some EDH. But I'd say my primary format was Modern. I had EDH to play with my friends and whatnot, but I'd be going to, I'd say FNMs, but they were on Monday. I feel FNM isn't necessarily a day, as more of an idea.
Yeah.
But
That's
and
true.
then from there we met Jason through playing Legacy primarily.
God's format.
It stinks that we got our local community going right before the pandemic started. So basically all that work we had put into the format and growing it here, we were getting like 10 people every Sunday. It was lost, and it really makes us sad.
Yeah.
But since the pandemic, since we haven't really been able to interact with people outside of our friend group in big groups, we've played EDH, and that's where we are today.
Yeah. A lot of the content creation kind of started out of that.
Mm-hmm.
It is worth noting we're all part of the same Legacy community, and that's how we kind of got to know each other. I was the employee at the local LGS. We bonded through playing Legacy, and that's the other area of like my supporting roles. A lot of people would come to me like, "Hey, this is a deck I want to do for channel, or I want to work on something here," and I would be like, "Oh yeah, let me sell you the product."
Jason's our Magic boomer and our judge here, so we always send him videos.
Excuse me, he is not a judge anymore. That was revoked 2 weeks ago.
Oh boy, do I get to complain about Judge Academy?
Well, you're not in it. You can, but that's another episode. Let's stay somewhat on topic. The first one, we'll go off the rails later. So, Jason, you started in Theros block, correct?
Yeah. First pre-release was Born of the Gods. Played a little bit before then. It was around the Christmas time of that year, so that's where I got my start. My start was primarily in playing kitchen table and standard. So, like, I remember some stupid things. Like my first Mythic, I think, was Mist Holographin. Like,
my first Planeswalker was Ajani Unyielding. I do remember that.
Nice. That's actually a really fun one.
Yeah, he's a good one.
It was about 6 months later I started getting into Commander with the Prosh Precon. Absolutely hated it. Absolutely hated it. Started working on a Teriel deck. That quickly became a Kalia deck. So I've been playing Commander for the better part of 7 years.
A little bit longer than the rest of us. I started in 2017 with Cameron, but I got into EDH much faster than he did. I was the one that got him into it. I picked up the Brea Precon about 4 months after it dropped, and that was just off the rails, I would actually go to F&M's on Friday and play EDH with some at my cousin and my step aunt and all that. We played consistently for about 6 months until that group dissolved,
Mhm.
and then we started playing Legacy more. That was end of 2017 into 2018. I got Legacy kind of started. No, it was 2019. I can't remember. Years
It was
were
into
weird.
2018 at the Team Trios.
Yeah. Oh, I started before you guys did because I ended up buying Eldrazi Post and playing it at SCG 2019, SCG Dallas in 2019. That's
February.
right.
Yep,
Yep,
because
in
I
February.
bought my Wastelands there at
And I brought
SCG.
Phoenix that you borrowed, and you did some shenanigans with Firemaster's Ascension and Chalice of the
Yes.
Void on some unsuspecting
The
opponent.
copy
on
still
your third game
resolves.
playing the game. The copy
The
still
co-
resolves.
The copy
You're
still
welcome for letting you
resolves.
4-0 that event by borrowing my deck while I was
It was-
playing Legacy.
It was 3-0. It was 3 rounds.
I know you went undefeated.
Yes,
It is
they were. My
fantastic.
opponent was on Mono Blue Tron, and I was like, I called Judge, and I was like, yeah, the copy still resolves, right? Even though the original gets countered. He said, yep, carry on.
Yep.
I was so proud of him that day. I did not buy him dinner, but I should have.
That was a fun one. That was a fun one.
Ah, good times. Yes, and you started earlier, but you mentioned to me off camera you had a campus club, right? That you were involved in on campus.
Yeah, I don't mind outing like where I was at. So I attended University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and I was part of the tabletop gaming club there. For the first like 2 years of playing with it, I wasn't leadership in it, and then I was leadership in my last semester. Club experience is a fantastic one. You get to see a bunch of new players. You get to learn and enjoy a large array of things. It also led to us playing a bunch of 7-player games, so I am very used to playing with way too many players.
It must be cool learning in tandem with people. Like I've never really thought of this. Like learning the game at the same time, being able to all collectively go like, "Oh, this mythic is fucking awesome." When in reality, it's like an 8 mana like
Yeah.
do nothing. But
I mean,
that community aspect's really cool.
there's a ton of great level up experience that you get playing in that environment, getting multiple inputs from other people. For example, my first draft of my Kalia deck had the Praetors in it. Because, like, I'm sorry,
Cool.
are you going to tell me that Elish Norn is not broken in Commander? You're going to tell me that Shieldred's not oppressive?
It's very
I don't
good.
care that I can't cheat it into play. I'm ramping anyway. Didn't have that much ramp.
I think my first commander deck had like 5 pieces of ramp. So
We all
feel
didn't
that.
know how to build them back then.
I feel that.
Yeah. You learn a lot of things. You get to see a lot of different options and play against different decks. We will eventually get into an idea for a future podcast, which is Commander Tilt buttons, and I will have some rage to throw at you later, but we'll talk about that another time.
I've got a good one with the only 9-person game I played when I played the few times at my college's in Magic the Gathering Club. It was 8 people, including 8 people playing normal Commander. 1 person out of that 8 was playing Werewolf Tribal without sleeves. If there's an issue, there's double-sided cards without sleeves.
You say normal. There was also a Teferi
The 9th person. The 9th
okay,
person.
Sorry.
Was playing Teferi Chainveil, turn 1 Winter Orbed, and the rest of us had nothing. So we sat there for an hour and a half until he just found the Chainveil by naturally drawing it.
Magic's a zero-sum game.
Zero-sum game indeed.
Zero-sum games are fun. Let's go.
As far as Commander goes, I really I think we all enjoy both, casual and CDH. As we've had some CDH on our channel, we generally construct more casual just because you can. I don't want to say CDH limits creativity because there's some really cool shit you can do in CDH, but the casual commanders sometimes lend themselves to doing more off the wall things.
Yeah, it's worth noting. CDH plays to a specific metagame, right? You're trying to optimize your decks and play towards optimal strategies. Sometimes that restricts what you're able to do. Doesn't change the fact that it's still an awesome format, and I highly recommend people try it out.
For sure.
If cost is the issue, proxying is welcome. No worries. But now we've kind of talked about that, introduced ourselves. We want to get into our first main topic, which is how people actually get into Commander. Y'all just started out and found your way into it by grabbing precons, right?
We for Commander, yes. We ended up. I got the Immense Superiority deck, and then I started with precons, and I ended up buying those. Cameron built his first deck.
Yeah.
Did you go to EDH Rec and find the information, or did you just go through the Gatherer and just find enchantments?
No, it was more just stuff I owned. My first deck was a Xur deck. I'm sorry. Xur. I think I pulled it from Modern Masters because Modern Masters 2017 had just dropped.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mhm.
And I pulled that and a Cyclonic Rift. I built it as pacifism deck. At the time, I didn't know that pacifism didn't or Xur doesn't care about hexproof shroud. Doesn't care. But I still built the deck that way, and I more just had cool like bulk stuff I had lying around. Like I had a Metamai the Ageless in there because who doesn't want to take extra turns? I was playing all the as I said, all the pacifism effects. I don't think I had Necro or Rhystic Study. I definitely didn't have Rhystic Study or Mystic Remora.
Remora back then was like $1 though. You may have.
I don't think I
I
did.
don't know, but it was stupid cheap back then.
And I was also, as I said, running 5 pieces of ramp, of which I think 3 of them were 3 mana.
Did you even have Soul Ring back then?
No, I had a Soul Ring. I know I was playing Darksteel Ingot because I owned one. I think I had a Commander Sphere. I could pull up the list, but it was a bad deck, but we had fun. Like I remember we sitting at my mom's house at the time, or my dad's house, either one of them.
Both.
Around our 3-person Commander games, Ethan Umbrea, because you didn't build another deck for a while, if I recall.
My second deck was I built Finax pretty soon after that. No, Edric was like fall of 2017, I think. But I built Finax as my second deck because I found Tomer's Budget Commander article on MTG Goldfish, and I copied that list, and everyone hated me.
I don't remember playing against it that much, to be honest.
I didn't keep it around for too much because I got so much hate for it. I just wanted to go make people mill 13 off of Tree of Perdition, but no one wanted me to mill them for 13 off of Tree of Perdition, so there was a little disconnect there.
My second deck was better. I built Shram, and it's hard to build Shram bad.
Yeah, Shram is just long as you're doing basically what he asks you to do, you're gonna be in a pretty good spot.
Yep, it was Voltron. I remember. It wasn't Cheerios. I wasn't that smart. Getting into the game can happen naturally like that, or because I don't think we actively sought out playing Magic. I remember our other roommate Logan and I were playing Hearthstone, and we got into Hearthstone for about a month, before like that December, and we would like play it in the living room together and on the TV and whatnot. And one of our neighbors showed Logan how to play, and Logan in turn taught us how to play.
He went to 8th Roll pre-release and then brought back cards, I think, and then that got you into it. And I was scarred from Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid, just going 0-3 at weekend tournaments at a local card shop. And I was like, I'm not playing another card game. And you guys kept on playing for a week in the living room. I was like, you guys are assholes. I'm ordering a Deck Builder's Toolkit.
Yep.
And here we are, 5 years later.
Yeah. When finding yourself into Commander, there's a lot of different things that you may or may not know, and it's sometimes hard to get this. So we have a couple of like guiding questions for when people are finding themselves towards Commander, or you're trying to introduce someone to the game. The 3 big questions I mainly have for them are, how much do you know about the game? This could be just, do you have enough play experience playing Hearthstone and Yu-Gi-Oh to get a basic understanding of how card games work, or are you going in blind, or have you played a lot of like competitive Magic and you just never played into the casual sphere as much? Do you know if you have a preferred play style or environment that you like? Do you want a competitive environment? Do you want the very casual environment? To which then plays into the next thing, your own background of, do you like power? Do you like style? Right?
Yeah.
What do you want to be doing with your games? Do you want to be the big Johnny player that goes and makes these crazy combos, or are you trying to go for the more optimized building paths? I know for like my own preferred play style, I am an optimizer. I play a bunch of budget decks because it makes me play a bunch of less optimal commanders and try to maximize my output within a budget. That's a really fun challenge, right?
I've had to do that a lot more because people are sick of me casting Molten Psyche with a Varen. So I've had to just stop.
We need to do more budget videos. They're
We
always
really
fun.
do.
Like my Afar deck was fun. I just sat behind a Nadir. That game was on camera. I won. I just sat behind a Nadir Kraken and won. It was great.
I feel like a lot of those budget videos we've had though, which it's sad because it can be a really great gateway into content for people on lower budgets, but all those videos get scrapped for X amounts of reasons. Like I had one with Around Me that I love the video, and I
never saw camera.
It never saw the light of day for various reasons, but a lot of our budget videos just haven't gone up. And I'm not sure if that's just been because of the play mistakes in them that we just didn't feel confident uploading those. So we didn't want to get.
We also haven't planned one in a while, so maybe we should do that.
Well,
That'd be fun.
we haven't recorded in a while either, so that's been the issue there. But going back to find yourself Commander, I feel like the next spot is cool. You know what you kind of want. who are you going to play with? This is
Mhm.
a group format. It's a very social format. You need
Yep.
people. So who are you playing with? Generally, if you hear it from someone else, you're gonna have immediate friends to play with. I was very blessed to have Cameron and Logan to start playing with, and Chandler as well. So we all four got into Commander around the same time and played on campus. But if
Mhm.
you don't have friends immediately, there's fantastic places like an LGS you can go to, and Jason can speak on that because he worked at one for an extended period of time.
Yeah, so similar to you guys, I had my immediate friends. I only started Magic because I happened to notice I had friends in college and in my hometown that played, and I was like, okay, well, that's something I can overlap with them when I'm
Mhm.
traveling between cities. And it went further than that because I had clubs and organizations to work with in that regard. The next group to talk about, though, is the LGS. And the LGS experience, it can be very positive, but it is not my favorite for Commander. LGSs have a tendency towards clicks, right? You have a
Mhm.
couple of players that play groups within the LGS itself, and when you have an extremely open environment, you have no idea what you're getting into. And as a starting player, you're going to see the full spectrum, right? You're going to run into the people who are going to be playing their high power quick combo decks, and that may turn you off of the format. You're going to be playing against people who have precons, or they're playing something janky, and you don't know what's the rules. Sometimes you get abused because of that situation. It's still a great way to start looking for a play group, though, because once you find a couple of people, you understand what their style is. If it's something that you like, you can stick with them.
Yep, they can become your immediate friends and be able to build decks all on similar power levels and whatnot.
So, Jason, would you kind of compare a LGS meta or a group kind of close to a club and organization, like on campus? Because I feel like they're kind of similar,
Yeah,
but I feel like there's a little bit of changes compared to like the demographic you'll find on campus would be different than an LGS. Does that
yeah,
play into any differences there?
I think it does. They are very similar in what they're trying to do. I do think that LGSs first and foremost are businesses, right? They are trying
Mhm.
to do whatever's profitable for them. Maintaining a community is profitable for them, though. So a lot of them take extra care to make sure that they have a community going and they have people to talk to, right? It's just a general better play experience for their customers, and it makes them enjoy the LGS more. On the flip side, though, clubs and organizations tend to not have any motive other than just have fun. So I have felt like they're a little bit more inviting, but at the same time, I could also see an argument that they're more cliquish or even sometimes harder to get into because of their pre-established groups, right? Working at the tabletop gaming club at UTK, we had new players who would come in, and we already established like, well, this is our commander meta game, so you kind of got to take it or leave it, right? Kind of hard to get people in sometimes,
Yeah.
but I do recommend it.
Would you ever with that group, would you scale power level pod, say, hey, this is kind of a lower power pod, this is a higher power pod, or
Oh,
would it
we
just be
were
right choices?
we were having Rule Zero conversations before Rule Zero conversations were a popular discourse. We
Good.
were like, we we were pretty quick to get to, okay, look, I know you've got Maelstrom Wanderer, but Maelstrom Wanderer is real hard for people to interact with. Please don't play that. Or, hey, please don't play Narset because Narset's just going to run us over. We've got someone who's playing a Togatog today. Let's scale it back a little bit. But there was also the natural correcting component with the more players you have in a game, the more just natural corrections that start happening. There's more people looking at, okay, that's a problem player. Maybe I can do something, which has its benefits, but that also is dependent on player experience as well. So if you have newer players, it's a little difficult. Again, 7-player commander games. Let's go.
Hell yeah. And then the last one that's kind of blown up over the past year and a half for obvious reasons, or only almost 2 years now. Shit, it's been almost 2 years. Has been
Don't think about
online
it. Don't think about it.
has been online Commander. I know services like Spell Table or Discord servers linking to Spell Table generally, from what I've seen, have been a very popular way to play the game. I know I haven't had any experience other than like a few games on webcam with really bad setups with
And
my
that's more so
friends.
just with friends. Yeah, that's not
Yep.
Yeah,
random lobbies.
Jason, have you? I'm assuming Cameron, you're the same boat. Have you haven't really done
Yeah,
anything
no,
with Spell
no.
Table? Jason, have you played like any online pickup games?
Online pickup games is the area I have the least experience in. I've only done like one or two. It really was not quite what I wanted because it's the rolling the dice of the LGS experience taken to the extreme. Again, I'm an optimizer. I do like a little bit higher power in my commander decks. It tends to lead to some salt factors when you just have this complete break between somebody who wants to be able to play Slug Tribal and I want to be able to play a semi-optimized version of a bad commander.
So in that case, since there is the salt factor and the rolling the dice, I guess is that why CDH has kind of flourished over the past 2 years with webcam games being established as a very popular format, but with that rule zero discussion being completely understood just from the format because it's
Yeah, there is no discussion. It just
there's
is.
no discussion.
Yeah.
You understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that would be from an outsider looking in. That's probably why that has just really grown in popularity.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason. I think another reason is, high power commander, right? There are people who like to win. There's a lot of discussion and a weird dichotomy we can get into of people talking about, play whatever you want, but people want to win.
Mm-hmm. But
So,
when he's bad as well,
yeah,
if you
like
win, then you're kind of looked down upon.
yeah, right. If you go and just gun for the win, you look kind of bad. Which also worth noting, CDH is not strictly a metagame of gunning straight for the win. That is a
No, stacks.
misconception. Yeah, stacks exist. Stacks control all sorts of things, right? There's a lot of value in fun commanders, and that people don't look at and think it's CDH, but it really is, and it fits the metagame perfectly.
One thing I wanted to add regarding why CDH has done so well online is just because I think with CDH there is kind of an understood like proxies are okay, at least from my experience, and that really helps being able to play it. Like you may not have the cards at home, but like as I said, I don't have experience with the online lobbies. I don't know how good your proxies have to be or what. I mean, nothing's stopping you from getting some notebook paper, writing what a card does,
Yeah,
and trying it out.
yeah. It's going to be a jump into the unknown situation. When you're getting into Commander, you are in a situation where you kind of have to jump into the unknown. So as much as I'm saying like there's downsides to the LGS environment, you still just kind of have to jump in and try it out to see how it works. And online communities take that even to a more extreme. But at the same time, if you want to find your community, it's kind of what you have to do. The other way that we can do this though is there are other people, primarily acquaintances that you may know, people you're not sure about that you just happen to bring up Magic with, coworkers, people you happen to know. In my weird situation, my sister's boyfriend just happened to play Magic. He was also named Jason. It was weird. That's I'd never gotten to play like modern elves before, and that's something you get to see. You get these new experiences just ask, right? See if people in the area have played.
I was gonna say with Arena being a thing now, the likelihood that someone has heard or maybe even tried Magic has probably gone up because
Significantly.
yeah, with them even just being able to like grasp the concept of lands as a resource, tap it for mana, use it, match it to the pips on the card, etc. Just basic being able to play the game. And that's a big leg up. Being able to even just do that, if you can do that, you can play the game at a pretty rudimentary level, but you can still try.
If you already understand that you can't attack other creatures, then
Yeah.
like you're already a leg up.
Yep.
You ruined me on that one.
Just remember, don't tap to block. You don't tap to block.
But
man.
yeah, Arena's been a blessing in that sense. They don't have multiplayer. They haven't done multiplayer support, right, for like their Brawl Commander stuff.
It's still 1v1.
Do they ever intend on adding multiplayer support?
Great question.
Great question.
Moving
on.
I don't have an answer.
Yeah. Moving on. So, no, do you have anything else to say on that one?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
All right then. So, as kind of going off of Cameron, like, hey, a first experience. What's your first deck gonna be when you get into the format? Like there's precons, which is a really good point, a really good jumping off point for the format. But there's other ways. But let's talk on precons for a second. Which ones do we like? Which ones do we recommend kind of going into? And is it a good way to start? Cameron, do you want to start us off here?
Sure. So precons are great. I still pick them up. They're great for new players. They're great for established players because they generally put really good reprints and just new original cards. It has been kind of not strange. It's been good that they do more commander product. And so they can get some of these reprints out. Like Nirkana Revenant is one that comes to mind. That was like a $25, $30 card, if I'm not mistaken. Now, what is it now? $5 or $10?
About 10.
Significantly less.
Yeah,
yes.
Like really good reprint. And that shouldn't be what you base your deck on, especially if you're new to the game. I wouldn't base it on what the monetary value. Like looking at the Spirits deck, it's probably a better deck than the Vampires deck. It may not have the monetary value, but what it's trying to do works really well. I think at that power level, just go wide with the board. and win through creature beats, which is what most of those precons are winning through. And as we said, and I know that some precons are better than others, i.e., the Prismari precon
Yeah.
from Strixhaven. That may be the best precon out of the box I've ever played against, which I've been playing against them out of the box since probably
2017.
2016, 17.
You
That
only
thing's
played the
really
one
good.
out of the box, which was well, you played two. You played
And
me
that
just
was
one because I had both. But
that was Zephi. That's with Zephi as the commander, not even like having Veyron as the commander. Zephi is really good on her own.
Yeah.
So
depends on power level. Depends on power level. Out of the box against other C21 decks, insane.
Long and short of what I'm saying is that you shouldn't let money influence your decision, especially when you're new to the game. Just play what seems cool. If you want to play, people tell you that the vampires deck is bad, but you want to play vampires, well, go fucking play vampires. Sounds cool. Like zombies is one of my favorites. It's probably first or second favorite tribe. And so I bought the zombies precon to be able to flesh out a zombies deck, which I'm glad I did when I
You
did.
like
'Cause
zombies more than elves?
I haven't built an elf ball commander just because I
You
haven't.
played it so much in Modern and Legacy and
I
Standard
wish
if you
I had.
could.
I would have played it in Legacy if there wasn't, a global pandemic or something.
Yeah, it's like you had 3 out of 4 cradles, and then they jumped up a couple of
I
dice.
just my 2 cradles and it hurt me.
But you still have one. You still have one.
Yeah, well, yeah, for commander.
Special one.
Yeah.
Basically, what I have to say about precons, they're great. Jason, do you have an opinion on precons?
Yeah, pretty much. My opinion's very similar. Working as an LGS employee, I do have to sell these things pretty often. So I do have a tendency to recommend precons that have themes that new players gravitate towards, particularly tribal decks, life gain, Voltron, lands, and artifacts. Those are the themes that new Magic players very much enjoy playing. So I usually did things like, okay, I'd recommend Wyleth, Anawan, Vrondis, Osgir, AC, and Willow Dusk precons. Those are very popular. If I knew the players could handle something a little more complicated, I would go with something like, say, Prosper. Wilhelt's not very complicated, but it is a zombies commander, and I know people love zombies, so it's one that people tend to like. It's just working with the decayed mechanic gets people sometimes. And Zafai is one that I wouldn't recommend very often, but I would do it. And also I have a soft spot for Brina, so I will absolutely recommend that deck to people, even though it is a very difficult one for new players to understand.
I still don't understand her.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Do you play against that deck multiple times and it's still just kind of
When a player attacks an opponent that has a greater whatever, I don't know.
when a player attacks one of your opponents that does not have the lowest life total, they draw a card, and then Jason puts 2+1/+7 counters on a creature he controls. I say Jason says that because I've never seen anyone else play that deck.
It's good. It's really good.
It's really good.
Orzhov doesn't get card advantage.
Yeah, it does.
Well, no. Well, it's giving you opponent's card advantage. Now, Silverquill lets you draw a card, right?
Yeah,
that one does.
Brina lets you draw cards. You can draw 2 cards with her. If you attack two people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you attack, but it also gives your opponent's card advantage.
Oh,
so I guess
so does Karazakar, but I still love Karazakar.
Well, Karazakar's. I'm still mad at you. That game was you stole that game from me. It's been 3 months. I'm still mad.
Sure did.
Go suck one off.
So, Ethan, you got anything for the precons?
I think your point on steering certain players towards easier to understand precons is really important. Us as entrenched Magic players that have been in the game for a very long time, we can forget that the stack is complicated. We can forget that if you're not a STEM major, if you're not a computer science major, the stack makes no sense starting out, unless you think about it as pancakes. But that it's just complicated. So
I was taught of it like a Pringles can.
Okay, sorry. Do you like Bo Burnham? You like Pringles cans?
Good reference.
That was a callback to 2016, boy. So like even Elf Ball, I feel is like it's a very like you mentioned like tribals, like the tribal zombies is like fine, but I feel like the Freyleys precon can also be like too much because if you put too much on the board as someone starting out with Commander, there's 27 creatures that tap for mana and have a bunch of different abilities. That can be overwhelming to certain players. So making sure that it's a deck that is a powerful one, but doesn't flood the board on your side. And I guess with precons being a good one, if all the precons are at a similar power level where they're not doing too much, then other players can understand what's going on. If you're sitting down, have a deck you've never played before, it's a precon, and there's 3 other decks you've never seen before, that's about, excluding basic lands, about 300 cards. You have no clue what's going on with different interactions. You have to be able to understand that and not get overwhelmed by it. But when someone's has a bunch of abilities on 20 different cards going off all at once, how are you going to keep track of that unless you know the game at
Yeah.
a fundamental level?
Quick tangent. Sorry, Jason. Something popped in my head.
Mhm.
Just the idea of being thrown into a different sphere that you're used to and not knowing what any of the cards do is intimidating. I just recall back when we did the SCG the modern IQ at our LGS in 2016, and we just brought our kitchen table decks. And game 1, turn 1, dude, some guy shocks in a stomping ground, and I don't know what it does, and I have to read it. I'm like, oh, I'm in over my head.
You guys asked me to go with you today. I was like, no, there's no way we win. Why would I go spend $30 when I can go to Sonic 6 times and eat?
Let me play my Awaken deck with Narset, Transcendent, and Peace.
And Noyandar. You had Noyandar foils in that deck.
I still have my foil Noyandar.
Hold on. You just reminded me of the first IQ that I ever solo judged.
We're already off the rails. Let's go.
Here we go.
I'm setting things up. I'm stressed out of my mind. And I get called to the front for a judge question. I'm like, why in the world is someone calling me to the front for a judge question? Okay. I go up, and these 2 guys go up and like, hey, we have decks, and we didn't know if our deck was modern legal. Immediate red flag. Like, okay, we need you to do a deck check for us. And I'm like, okay, I start this event in 5 minutes, but sure, let me look through your decks real quick. I pick up their decks. The first thing I see is Gideon Marshall Paragon. Yeah, one of the Planeswalker deck Planeswalkers.
Oh, okay.
Those are modern legal, though, right?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
They are.
This guy had an 86 card,
Hell yeah.
just precon deck that he's just thrown stuff in. And like, I told him up front, hey, this is absolutely modern legal. There's no problems here in terms of that. I'm gonna let you know now. This is a competitive environment. Like, these are decks that are gonna try to win on turn 4. You're gonna have a hard time. You sure you want to play in this? And they were just like, sure, why not? We're gonna go in. They got absolutely creamed. Like, they didn't win a game.
I don't doubt it.
I had to check out, but like, I felt bad, man.
I got a game.
How'd you get a game at that event? How'd you get a game?
Noyandar's pretty good once you get them rolling.
All right, fair enough.
I wasn't smart enough to play Darksteel Citadel, though.
Honey.
Oh, now I want to build Noyandar.
I actually have built that, and we can talk about that sometime. But I want to get back on track for real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get back on track.
Elf is actually something I do want to talk about as an entry point for new players. Linear Elf Ball is actually fine, right? It's just give +1/+1, a lot of mana. Giving people level up moments so that they can see small synergies is great. It's a great way to get people, they start on something, they play it poorly, and then they realize, oh wait, I could do this to get more mana. Yeah, let's do that. Starting out with the highest levels of complicated on it, like if you're trying to do this as, let's say, a 2-lane Elf Ball deck that's trying to draw their whole deck, yeah, that's not a good starting point for people because that's way too complicated. But linear is excellent starting out. But on the flip side of that, combat is the single most complicated part of the game. It has the most steps, it has the most interactions. People don't think about it in the same way, at least new players, because we're used to it. Or experienced players, because we're used to this. New players have a hard time understanding you don't tap your creature to block. So giving them decks that do engage in combat, but are very linear in how they engage in combat is an excellent idea, which is why Wyleth is often one of the ones I recommend, because it's like, you just do the same thing. Just load up Wyleth with enchantments and artifacts and go to town. You don't need to worry too much about how your opponents can block, because if they just block with one creature, it doesn't matter. My creature's big enough to survive.
With the Wyleth deck, would you say like Sunforger is the level up point in that deck?
Sunforger is absolutely a level up point.
Cameron, I know you're cheering. But Sunforger in that deck, it's everything else is pretty linear and like has synergy, but the Sunforger being able to activate instant speed and interact in a deck like that, I feel like would be like a fantastic level up point put into a reasonably powered and easy to understand deck.
Yeah,
So I think that's
even
like a fantastic point.
another example of a good level up card that people wouldn't think of as a level up card is just how to actually use a pure steel paladin in your deck.
Did it come in the precon?
I don't think it did, but I'm just saying, like,
It
that's
was
the
in
type of
the
card.
Galea. It was in Galea.
That's right.
But that is a type of level up card because people don't understand, like, oh, I want to play out all of my artifacts and enchantments, right? So I'm just going to load. Well, maybe I should sandbag some of the less effective ones until I draw my pure steel paladin so that I can draw some extra cards. Or maybe I do want to play them out so that when I draw the pure steel paladin, I can just equip for free. Right? That's actually really complicated. It's not easy to make those decision points. But it is a good level up experience. And it's the type of card I would encourage including in a precon or in an entry level deck, because we're going to talk about borrowing decks now.
Whoa, nice segue.
Y'all want me to build? Y'all are making me want to put together a Sunforger deck.
Of course.
Okay, I was gonna say Doyen Dar. Do Doyen Dar. I'm sick of Sunforger. You caused me so much pain with that damn fucking card.
My two pet cards in Commander are Sunforger and Clever Mercenator. I will force them in any deck that those colors are in.
So you're telling me for gift exchange, I know what to do.
Yes, absolutely.
I am brewing in my head now. I am brewing the Artifact Akiri Commander with the the partner that's like 1 in a blue flyer. Spells that target your commanders cost 1 more or 2 more. So in my head, continue though.
The familiar SEOR.
That or Crom.
Back
on topic. We're getting back into this game.
Borrowing decks. So if you're playing with people you know or at LGS, you say, hey, I've got my deck. It might not hang with you guys. It might be too lower powered. Can I borrow a deck? Or someone says, hey, play with us. I've got a deck you can borrow. How do you feel that is is that a good place to start? Or a good way to get a level up moment there? Because I feel like this one might have some mixed feelings a little bit more than the precons.
Yeah.
Cameron, how about you take us off here?
Oh, okay. I think that borrowing decks is really fun. Like even today when I'm, I have my decks that I enjoy, which to be fair, I don't get to keep my decks around as much because I'm constantly taking them apart.
For the channel,
and putting them back together. But borrowing decks is really fun because they're a little more tuned than the precons. They can be a little more difficult to play and pilot, but being able to see even more of those level up moments, Jason said, because it's more of a tuned deck, so it's going to be able to have those moments more often, I'd think. Like you said, Pure Steel Paladin and what's another one? Like Stoneforge Mystic seems like a pretty big one. Like having to go through those thought processes of, okay, in this scenario, what equipment is the best here? 99% of the time it's Sunforger, just letting you know. But
you're not biased at all.
No
bias here.
But like in actuality, like being like, okay, do I need mana? Like if it's early in the game, I can get this Dowsing Dagger and have a Lotus Veil for the rest of the game. Or am I low on card advantage? Get a Sword of Fire and Ice, or even more mana advantage like Feast and Famine. So you're having even more of those level up moments, and it's fun as it can be tougher on new players, but precons play out a lot easier because they're generally more cut and dry when it comes to like winning with the combat step as opposed to other means, which these tune decks can do.
So my point, we mentioned Stoneforger specifically, or Stoneforge Mystic. Yes, Stoneforger. It's just what you're
Stoneforger.
Getting. But with Stoneforge Mystic, that I feel that's a good segue into Tutors of Cringe.
I'm tutoring for an equipment. It's not that good to begin with.
But so for a new player, if I let's say I've been playing for a month, I go to an LG and say, hey, I've had my Prosper Precon and I know it pretty well, but it's pretty underpowered compared to you guys are playing. Can I borrow a deck? And they pick up Srom. You're able to borrow a Srom deck and you have a Stoneforge Mystic in your hand. What the fuck do you tutor?
It can be overwhelming.
It can be super overwhelming. And so I feel it's almost an issue and a downfall with borrowing decks is because you don't have the deck knowledge. And if you don't have the person that built the deck with you to say, hey, in this scenario, here's what I got in my deck. I don't think most players print off a deck list to put in the deck box. They might have it on Mox Field or Tapped Out or Architect or whatever. But if you don't have access to that, you don't understand the nuances of the deck. If I give someone just any deck, if I give someone a Brea deck, let's say a Brea deck, and they don't understand KCI and Ashnod's Altar, Nim Death Mantle, and Eldrazi's Placer as a combo, they just see these cards in there, like, okay, I get I can sack things, but why the hell isn't there Death Mantle in its artifact deck?
Yeah.
I mean, well, I was gonna say sacrificing things
So
can be intimidating for
yeah,
players too, starting out because it's like I don't want to get rid of my stuff.
yeah,
It's here.
that is absolutely why I hated the Prosh deck when I started out. Now I greatly enjoy aristocrat strategies, but Prosh was a deck I hated early on because I did not want to sacrifice my own things, and I had to find things I wanted to sacrifice. That said, also tutoring is something I do like to try to avoid doing with newer players because
Mhm.
it's decision overload. And there's also a very critical thing about tutoring that most people don't think about. Do you tutor by name or do you tutor by art?
Ooh,
I tutor by art.
that's so just art. Wow, I've never thought of that. Yeah, art at this
I never
point,
thought about that.
especially some foreign cards,
Hmm.
like tutoring by
Which is
art.
another issue with
Yeah.
borrowing decks. Nice
Foreign.
segue.
Hey, intentional.
So Jason, you play a lot of foreign cards in your deck, right, Jason? Generally.
I usually have between 4 and 10 foreign cards in a deck. It's pretty rare that I have sub 2. There's almost always a foreign card in my deck, which I do agree is a huge downside when loaning out decks. I'll say this. I'm the guy who's most in favor of borrowing decks. I love loaning out decks. I love letting people try them out and see how they like them. One of the huge benefits of loaning decks as well is you get to play a variety of strategies with 0 cost commitment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's literally not even a time commitment into doing this. You don't have to print off your proxies and figure it out. You just play. It's one of the things I love about it, but I do absolutely acknowledge the weaknesses of, if it's a more advanced deck, it's not a good one to loan out. If it's an expensive deck, people aren't very willing to do it. Like I do not loan out Thrasios Timna very often or Thrasios Vile Smasher. Like
I mean,
my
you also
CDH
don't
deck isn't
wanna
getting loaned out very often.
you don't
But would
want to
you loan it out to me?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
But I think
Yeah,
that
social.
also
See, that's the and within a friend group, I know you. Like, absolutely, I'm going to do that. With a new player first getting in, someone who doesn't even
Yeah.
might not necessarily even know how to shuffle a deck correctly. Uh,
Oh, I haven't thought about that. Like new players shuffling your deck, that's a
Mhm.
lot of trust to a random person.
yeah. So like, it's another reason why I like budget decks is because if I have a $50 budget deck and you bend half of the deck, I really don't care that much. Like,
one
that's a risk I'm willing to take.
one point I'm wanting to was wanting to make is that I feel that if you're loaning out the deck, even if you're in the game, it's kind of this is just me, but I feel like if I loan out a deck that's somewhat complicated, it's to a new player, it's incumbent upon me to help them through it.
Absolutely.
Like
It
uh,
it is,
that doesn't
but
mean
what,
other
you're not
people will.
everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, not everyone is like you. Not everyone has empathy.
Yeah.
Number
It's
one,
true.
starting out someone in CEDH is evil. So why?
I will absolutely acknowledge that.
But no. You got to start them right with Clark and Sakashima. You have to let them flip
Sakashima.
coins so they can resolve the spell.
No, like you were saying,
Oh God, no.
like
Yes.
yours is Curious Control, right?
Yeah, Curious Control is
Okay,
my
so
go-to right now.
Curious Control that has so many decision points, especially with it being a control deck in CDH.
Yeah.
It's not very proactive. You're just trying to get Thrasios out and just kind of exist and
Yeah,
not die.
I will say it is probably one of the easiest control decks to play.
But still, like
It's just like there's not a ton of tutoring you have to do because the tutors you find are generally for combo pieces. As long as you know that, you're pretty good to go. Or you're searching for a value engine. But
even
yeah.
with just CDH decks in general. What was my point? I was going to make them so mad now. 'Cause I had a really cool thing I was going to say.
Was it tutoring is cringe?
Tutoring is cringe. Back to that. Is it?
I don't know. It was more so just that CDH in general. I forget where I was going to go. We can cut this out, so I'm pissed.
No, we're
I
gonna
had
put this
a
in.
cool point.
Nah, it stays.
No, it stays because you made good points in that. Even if you lost your quest led you along some nice green pastures that you enjoyed, but you could not find the cave you were going for. So therefore, it's still fine.
Oh,
You gotta
here it
mess-
is.
you gotta check
I
it out.
remember it now.
There we go.
CDH has so many like decision points, even on mundane things.
Yes.
Like somebody plays the person. If someone goes turn one, they're on the play and go Mystic Armor. You're generally gonna want to mental misstep that if you have that. But if someone's fourth in the turn order and they play Mystic Armor, it's like, well, people have already played out a lot of their
Mana rocks, yeah.
mana rocks and crap. Maybe I need to save this for a Pyroblast in the future, or
Mhm.
or not Flusterstorm. That doesn't work. But
You can pay 2 life to counter a Flusterstorm. It's great.
wow.
It's like I got to pay Phyrexian mana
just
to
like,
answer one
Like-
Flusterstorm. It's great.
even with like we know how we said combat is like the hardest thing. I think either right with it or right behind it are counter spells in general, just because like
Counterspell interaction stuff.
it's hard. Like there's some easy ones, like someone plays a Sea Rift, you're like, okay, yeah, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
But like as I was saying with CDH, like when to count, like Ethan and I were playing CDH a couple months ago, and we had a weird interaction where I play Thoracle, but his only counterspell was Remand, and I knew it. And I had enough mana to be able he just bounces the Thoracle again, and I just replay it and play the Demonic Consultation.
Yeah.
I forget what it was, like how it ended up, but just those kinds of decision points don't happen with the pre-cons or even borrowed decks that aren't at that kind of tier.
Yeah,
So,
generally it's not happening. But
Uh,
the average commander deck is also not geared quite to that. The most
No.
tutoring you tutor 1 to 2 cards in a game maybe, and most of the time you're tutoring lands. So it's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Sorry,
So
I was
what-
rambly, but
No, that we're
It's good.
doing a
It's good.
podcast, and this is the whole point is us talking. Oh no! But back on the point, tutoring is cringe. If you think tutoring is cringe and you don't want to put tutors in your deck, build a deck that doesn't have tutors. So moving on to building your own deck, I think it is personally after you have a little bit of experience, I think it's the best way to go about it. Obviously, you want a deck that's personal to you, but the feeling you get when you build a deck that just works and it scratches that itch. Like for me, Brea, just being able to like combo out and just like have these multi-layered ways of, oh, I can use this card, which finds this card, which then draws me cards to find this other card, and just assemble wins from just nothing is fantastic. Second video we posted was a 3-minute edited, like 20-minute long Bolt to Citadel turn, and I still go back and watch that just my own narcissistic way of remembering a time I was happy in my life. But it's things like that make building decks so worth it to me, because you can just you get to have that deep connection to what you're doing. This is something you built. This is something I designed, and it works. So
Are we classifying, because like buying a precon and upgrading it, I would consider that deck you're building your own deck.
I think it
Don't.
depends on how much you're upgrading it. Because if you get a precon and you take the mana rocks to the commander and some lands, but you change 40 cards in it, definitely. But if you're like changing out 5 cards that are like, okay, this is weak, like the witch or the ogre and the witch that make rats in Prosper, you cut those out because to me they're not really fitting the strategy of what you're doing in Prosper. Is that really changing the deck a lot, or is that just taking a few cards that need to be changed? I think that there's a gray area there.
Go ahead.
With new commander players, depending on your
it's a big
previous
deal.
experience, right? If you're an established modern player and you know the types of things that you like to do, this is definitely one of the better ways to get started than a precon. But even then, a competitive environment has a different ways it's trying to play. Like playing tempo in commander is pretty much non-existent with the exception of a handful of commanders like Nagila. So it's pretty hard to play a dedicated tempo strategy. And if you are coming from Legacy playing Blue-Red Delver, you're going to have a little bit of a hard time finding your immediate niche if you know that's what you want. So upgrading precons, though, for example, if you're talking with somebody who's brand new, they know absolutely nothing. As much as it, like, the deck, if they've played their deck before they started upgrading it, they have a rough idea as to what their deck wants to be doing, but they still don't know what's good, right? And so that's pretty hard. I love building decks for more experienced players, but the newest players, I absolutely throw precons at them. Precons are borrowed decks just because borrowed decks generally come with somebody who's willing to tell you how the deck works. So it's
with the
it's pretty
understanding
helpful.
of having someone there, yeah.
It's also a bonding experience and helps you get a play group. So
Yeah, sure. Like
huge
that's
benefit.
kind of how our legacy group started. Is that
Absolutely.
people
We
lending out
started
decks.
we loaned each other's decks. My first time playing Death and Taxes was borrowing Seth's version of it, and I just threw Death Shadow at him. Or did I throw Hogak at him? I don't know which one I had at the time.
What's up, Ethan?
I was gonna say Seth from the now defunct Casual Ponderings podcast is our homie.
Yes.
So if you want to go listen to me and Cameron talking on that podcast like 2 years ago about Legacy, check us out there.
I miss Legacy.
I miss that format so much. I miss Chalice of the Void being good.
I miss wastelanding people.
No, we don't talk about that. You've
miss-
destroyed too many of my cloud posts. You don't get. You do not
easy.
talk. I will mute you. I
Thank
can
you,
cut out your
Maverick
audio
player.
and post.
I
My
can cut
goal
out
is
your
to
audio
wasteland
first.
you 5 times in a game. Let's go.
Then Ren and Six came along and did it better than me, and that was sad.
Uh, anyway, anyway, Cameron, what's your thoughts on building a deck?
It's fun. I think it can be really fun to, like using the resources available to us now. Because even just 5 years ago when I started, I don't know if like EDH rec existed, but like I didn't use those resources when I first started. It was more so I remember we would sit in class and just hit the random button on the gatherer for 50 minutes straight. And
Time vault there, and I was freaking out. I was like, "What is this?
Time
This is
vault.
so-
Yeah, go pick up a time vault, Ethan.
Oh
But-
man. EDH
but-
Rec was around at least in 2017. I do remember being at work,
Okay.
totally being heavy at work,
Yeah.
just going through there and writing decks on notepads. Really
Yep.
bored at work over the summer.
But as I said earlier, I think that my first deck was a Zur deck, and that was literally built with crap I had laying around.
Mhm.
I may have bought a couple things, but like I remember thinking Aegis of the Gods was the greatest card in the deck because I could get it off Zur and have hexproof, and I was like, winning. Yeah, we're winning.
I mean, it's not a bad card.
Baller.
Not a bad
It's
card in
not!
the deck, honestly.
No, it's cool, but like as I said, I was playing things like Metamai the Ageless, and oh no, I had Phage the Untouchable in that deck as well. So that
You
tells you how
did
good
have
my deck
Age the
was.
Untouchable.
Hell
Oh,
yeah.
I don't
missed the
get 'em.
days, man.
Did it,
I'm
hold on. Did it ever work?
no. I'm still
Okay.
wanting to build an Esper deck that wins by fractured identitying my own Phage. That is my
Yep.
goal in Commander, is to win that way.
I will let you borrow my fractured identity if you want to build that.
Wait, how much mana is Phage? 7? With
7 or
the
8.
it would maybe I need to play the Esper Sphinx that can cast odd spells because fractured identity is 5. Yin it. Yeah.
Mm.
I could win with
Okay.
that. That's my ultimate
But
goal in
hey,
Commander.
Okay.
But if
You're not
you know,
allowed
if
to
you do-
counter it if it happens. You have to let it happen.
I'm gonna do a callback to last night that Cameron wasn't here. You know, if you put Phaser's Commander, Stinging Study, it draws you like 7 or 8 cards in instant speed.
So does Villas?
Stop
No,
with
no, no, no.
the Stinging Study me.
Stinging Study,
Cool fact.
best black draw spell ever printed.
really good.
Says nothing on it. So good. Just no cap. Anyway.
As I said,
We have
I
differences
still,
of opinion, and you'll see them.
Oh, I'm totally not.
You don't think
Or
Stinging
Ethan might
Study-
be dead tomorrow. We don't know.
So-
that was what I wanted anyway.
reining
Fight for help.
reining back in a bit. Deck building can be fun, especially if you have people helping you. Like as far as like in my mind through this discussion when we talk about deck building, I've been under the impression that we were talking about, sitting at your own computer doing it by yourself, but getting in a Discord call with your more entrenched Magic friends, they'll help you like build the deck that you kind of want. Like they can lead you towards the cards that you're wanting that are good in your deck and you're wanting to play. So you don't have to listen to them 100%, even if they tell you something's bad. Like
Absolutely.
I had nobody to tell me that Phage was bad in my Zur deck, but I was like, I can kill someone by just hitting them with a creature. Sign me up.
People did tell me that Shieldred was bad in my deck, but I didn't listen.
Did you care?
There's a level of saying I don't care. I want to play this card,
Mhm.
but like that depends. But on your point, it has 2 or 3 decks I brewed. I just said, hey Jason, are you free right now? You want to hop in a
Hell
Discord
yeah.
call? That's how we brewed Togoshima, which is one of the favorite decks I've ever played, and I've been tuning
Hot.
that to the point where I haven't told you this, Jason. I don't think they think about taking Sai out of that deck. I don't think he's good enough. He's just so slow.
Ooh,
I
interesting.
know, controversial. Every time I've seen him, I'm like, either I want to keep my rocks right now, or I don't have the mana to do this, and it's not making enough Thopters. But that's post podcast discussion there.
Yeah, I could talk about that sometime.
If
I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but
I'm never right though.
it's a lot of mana. Is it draw 1 card or 2 cards?
It's sack 2 artifacts, draw 1 card for
and it's
2
3
mana.
mana to act 2 mana.
It's 1 and a blue, and so okay, we'll talk about that later. Or if
back
we get
on topic again.
We'll get back to that, but just
but-
be able to sit down. Like we built a Rionia deck for the channel, which I played in 3 recordings so far in the past 2 days. That's been baller as hell, and the only reason I did that is because you picked 3 commanders. Say pick one of these, because I was so just getting overloaded. It's like there's 2,000 commanders. I can't choose one out of these, but I needed something to play different on the channel. And Riona's been one of my favorites I've played ever because it's just so dumb. It is so dumb.
Also, to be fair, I did cycle past anything I considered not a real commander.
Fair.
Legends
Okay,
cards, get out of here.
I mean, they're real commanders ish.
Yeah.
There's like 1 or 2 of them.
They have legendary,
They do have legendary.
but
Uh,
now that we're talking about this though, kind of in a subsection of building your own deck is just taking the average deck from EDH Rec.
I've done it.
I have never actually done that myself.
I've used EDH Rec as a resource and been like
Yes.
scrolled through the cards, but
Absolutely.
I don't think I've ever copy pasted the average deck list.
I have done it once or twice. There was did we ever post the video where I played Red Green Omnath? I think
No.
I threw it together. People were over at my place to record. I didn't have a deck ready because I got off of work late or something, and I was like, okay, average deck list, let's go. I won on turn 5. If that tells you anything. So like it can be a really good resource. If nothing else, it helps show you the average distributions. Because when you look on Mana Rocks on like any commander, you see like 15 options. But how many of those should you play?
Yep.
What is the average person playing? Because one of the great things about EDH Rec is obviously the aggregate data. The data doesn't lie. You see what people are playing. But one thing that I love about the EDH Rec cast and Upping the Average with Joey Schultz is they give all that data more context and more experience. So average deck list can be great, but you need more context in order to actually understand it and or make proper adjustments. So if you're looking at average deck list stuff, highly recommend Joey Schultz on Upping the Average. His series is fantastic. I watch it every new episode because he just does it in a really interesting way. Siri is popping off at me for some reason right now. Shut up, Siri. But average deck list, Upping the Average with Joey Schultz, I highly recommend watching every episode because he takes the deck, average deck, and then plays with it so he understands the nuances and gives you an accurate depiction of this is what it's like playing the deck. Is he biased? Sure. He likes his graveyard strategies a ton. Cameron would love him. But beside that, fantastic resource if you use it the right way. If you just take the average deck list off EDH Rec, you're going to have the most generic deck possible. And that takes the life out of building your own deck.
One of the
So it
things
just kinda
that
depends.
I love EDH Rec as a tool. I highly recommend people use it for when you're building your own decks. Just starting with straight up like copy pasting the average deck list is not something I recommend doing. It's not the worst thing you could be doing. The way I view it is you're just kind of creating your own precon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see
You
that.
don't know why these cards are in the deck, you're just playing with them. Sometimes they're good. The thing about EDH Rec that also can be a little bit of a downside, which precons have the downside of they're usually trying to support 3 commanders. So they have a lot of
Mhm.
weird cards that don't necessarily synergize with each other. They've gotten so much better in the last 2 years.
I've
Like,
only been printing one alternate commander lately, right?
yeah, in the like $25 ones that you can get from your LGS, which by the way, if cost is important to you, absolutely buy those ones. They're all good.
The
Like, buy
Strixhaven ones. They're all like $25 now?
No, not the
Well,
Strixhaven ones.
Oh.
We're talking AC
Oh, Wyleth.
yeah, AC, Wyleth, Anawan.
The Foretell one.
Some of them are a little bit higher price. Depending on your LGS.
Yeah, they've gone up a little bit.
Depending on your LGS, they might be up, marked up a little bit. I know the AC ones are like
Is there
40
something in
bucks
the
on
deck
Amazon right now.
making it that
Elven
expensive? What's in the
Empire.
deck making it that
What was
expensive?
that?
AC.
AC is $15. And
Yeah,
also
it's
blue
blue
green
green
lands is just blue green
Yeah.
lands. And if it's a precon, that puts you towards a fantastic
good.
archetype.
Absolutely.
And like there's that. I mean, what's it?
Oh yeah,
Lateral
Lateral.
Blade of
Yeah,
Elves.
looking at it
That's
because
a
you have
precon.
it sealed right there.
I have it sealed like over there. I've got that in the Galea precon just still in
I'm
box.
glad you recommended Wyleth because I bought Wyleth.
Hey, I got an Oscar one behind me. So
Hell yeah. I saw one that's at Target yesterday. Still in box
Oscar?
at Target. I almost picked it up just to have another copy.
You have an Archaeomancer's map. You don't need it.
Oh, I bought the precon once, but it's
Yeah.
not to be
Archaeomancer.
instantly financed,
get
but it's going to go up in
more.
value. It's a good sealed product to sit on, and also if someone wants to play the game, I can say, hey, here you go. Osgear is a fantastic starting off point.
Yeah.
I find it interesting you mentioned that's like build your own precon with the DH Rec average deck list. I've never thought of it that way, but it makes sense.
Yeah,
It makes a lot of sense.
It's kind of like building somewhere in the in between, or I guess it's a little bit of rolling the dice because one, if you don't know what commander you're getting, if you're actually like randomizing, yeah, you're absolutely have no idea what you're getting into. But take for example, Grand Arbiter Augustine the Fourth.
Ew.
Ooh, there's a lot of ways to build that, isn't there?
There are a ton of ways to build it. I have seen storm builds. I have seen advisor tribal with persistent petitioners.
That's hot.
Full on stacks, generic control, right? There's a lot of different ways you can build this. I don't know what the aggregate deck there actually looks like, and it's going to depend on what the overall metagame for that commander looks like. Also, in some cases, if you have a commander that has like no no real builds on it, like some of the bad uncommon commanders that people just don't want to build around, say Caliphate, for example.
What does that card do? I can't remember the top of my head what it is.
It basically just gives your creatures ward.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Pharaoh's Beyond Death, right?
Yeah. She's the
Mhm.
Yep.
Timberate cycle.
That's right.
Yeah, that whole
The red
cycle.
one's good.
Yeah,
Annex.
talked-
We talked about that one last night, actually.
yeah, Annex is great.
Annex
I'm
is
actually
great.
very interested to see an Annex build, but
To that point of what the average deck is, I think with EDH Rec you can actually parse out like, hey, I want to see this deck without X cards, and then you can still see an average deck from that. So be able to say, I want to see a deck that plays these cards fitting the strategy might be more in line with making that to where it's more accurate. But if you just take the average deck list of all of it,
Yeah.
then yeah, it's gonna be a mixed bag.
And then there's also another minor issue. Again, a slight issue with EDH Rec in general, just because of how it functions with the commanders. If you're trying to do something that's unusual with the commander, you're not always going to get great recommendations. So, spoiler for you guys, because you haven't seen this deck, and for viewers, we have upcoming content that might involve this deck. But I was trying to build something with Timna Rograk, and everything that was coming up, everything that
Farm.
was coming
Or
was
farm.
Mad Farm. It was
Yeah.
only CDH content.
Yep. Like
So-
for Kazur Okima, I was like trying to say, okay, you can do +1/+1 counter stuff, but over half the list play food chain, and
Yep.
so it just
Food Chain and
it
Kima.
throws off all the data. It's hard to find a non-competitive Thrasios deck, partially because Thrasios is busted, but because usually you just play ridiculously powered cards with Thrasios. So trying to find a lower powered build, you really have to parse down the data in a certain way to find anything useful.
So like using the EDH rec stuff when you're trying to parse through this data and trying to figure out what's useful, it's pretty good and as a means of like, okay, I'm just gonna set up a proxy deck and see what I like. I'm completely all for like, I want to try out a deck, I'm just gonna proxy it. That's cool with me. When you're looking to build your first deck though, there's something to be said of just, having the cards as something. You get a little bit more attached to it and you enjoy your deck a little bit more. I do recommend actually having cards, which is why I like the precons quite a bit. So if I had to like place the order in which to do these, like it's pretty much precon borrowing, building it yourself, and then doing the EDH rec copy
Average.
paste.
I'm with you there. That's how I'd order it as well.
I'm gonna rank building like higher, but I understand there's like if we're talking for new players, I agree with that thing.
Yes.
But I feel like there needs to be a point where those priorities shift to where when you learn how to use EDH Rec in a positive manner that adds to your deck building appears to detracts and makes it generic, that's when that one kind of adjusts a little bit, and then when building becomes the priority.
I
I
mean,
feel like
I
there
can.
needs to be a good like map of, hey, you're at a point where you've been playing Commander for 6 months and you've had like 2 precons, you've been borrowing a lot of decks. Take that knowledge and turn into something that's your own.
I mean, so I'm actually going to disagree with you there because some people don't want any more out of the format than that. Just being able to get together with
That's
their
fair.
friends, get a precon, and jam. They don't ever want to go past that, and that's perfectly fine. They never have the drive to build a deck. They just want to get a precon out of the box. Maybe they get a pack at their LGS or from their friends or something, and they get a cool bomb-ass card that they put in one of the precons, and that's their deck building. And if that's what they want to get out of the format, then by all means do that forever.
I actually just now thought of something. My number one way to do this, if you can do it, is something I love to do every year when the new precons come out, is a precon league.
Ooh, yeah, precon leagues.
All right. If you ever played sealed leagues before, where you get a pack like every week or every other week, it's kind of similar to that, where you start with your precon, you play with the precon, and then you get to upgrade depending on a certain amount of money. If you want to say like, oh, it's $10 a week or $10 or $20 every 2 weeks, something along those lines, and you play it out for like say 3 months. It is great. You get to try a whole bunch of crazy things, and you really start learning what you like about the deck.
I feel that's pretty much the end of our outline, right? Because that's everything we really want to talk about.
Pretty.
Is there any like closing remarks on this?
Not on the building deck stuff, but we do have a little bit more to come because we do want this podcast to be ongoing and not a single episode.
I did have one thing. It was just more, we talk about all this stuff, and it kind of goes in line with what I said earlier. Just let the format be what you want it to be. As I said, if you want to just play the precons for don't feel pressured into building your own deck, and if you're having fun just jamming the precons with people at your LGS, even though if they have better decks than you, I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people, even if they do, a lot of people will have the drive to make theirs better to compete. But if you're more just wanting for this to be a social, social thing, keep it that way and
Absolutely.
jam games like that. That's how it started
Don't
for
let
us.
I guess my fear would be don't let any of our content sway how you play the game or make it change how you think about the game if it's not what you
Mm-mm.
think. Because again, it is such a open-ended way. You could just take $10, go to LGS, go through a bulk box, throw a deck together.
Yep.
It might be quote unquote functional, but if you're having fun, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, bro, give me the Saffron Olive effect. I want to talk about a card and then it jumps like 10 times in price.
Hey, how about the Unspeakable was on Against the Odds the other day. Like, let's just talk about that one as a commander.
Nope, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, darn. The 9-drop 6/7 Trampler that has arcane, quote unquote, synergy is not what you want to build? Come on, dude.
I don't know this
Disappointed.
card. I'm looking at it.
You haven't, oh, yeah, you weren't here last night.
It's so bad.
No.
It's so bad. It is so bad.
Well, but didn't original Kamigawa have the War of the Spark thing where there was a legendary in every pack? Or am I mistaken?
I don't know if they had seeded legendaries. I just know they had.
I know they had a lot of legendaries because
Yes.
was War of the Spark was a guaranteed Planeswalker or legendary.
Guaranteed
Planeswalker.
every pack.
Okay, that's why they had the uncommon ones.
Yeah.
Was it
Technically
guaranteed
speaking, they were legendary. So
Yeah. What are they guaranteed? Well, I guess
legendary creatures guaranteed in
legendary.
Dominaria.
That was it. That's what
That was it.
I can't remember if it was
That was it.
guaranteed or not. I just knew
Yeah,
they had
yeah.
a shit
So,
ton.
Yeah,
I guess we're gonna wrap up the topics for today, unless anyone else here wants to stop me. But thank you guys for listening. This is something new we've been talking about doing. Hopefully, we're coherent enough to be understood. I haven't started drinking just yet, so I can't use that excuse this time around.
Yeah.
We're going to do this bi-weekly. If there's enough great response and we have the time for it, we could go weekly, but that's no guarantee. We want to keep this consistent though with the bi-weekly. We have some topics lined up, but if you have any recommendations or you want to give some input, we have comment sections below, and we'd love to hear from you guys. We have social media. We're hoping to start a Twitter for this as well. If we haven't before this episode comes up, we'll do it soon after. But we have our Twitter, SmoothBrainEDH. We have our YouTube, and we have our Instagram, which is SmoothBrainEDH. We would love to hear from all you guys. We love to reach out to you. Discord server coming soon. We've been working on that behind the scenes. We love to hear. And talking on webcam games, man, we can start some pickup games in there. Who knows? Moving forward, though, we want to try to introduce some recurring segments. We'll mostly, other than harassing Cameron consistently,
it's very important.
Very important. Cameron
I don't know what
deserves
that entails. They won't tell me.
You don't need to know, okay?
They won't tell me.
Jason is a Vorthos man at heart, at least to an extent.
I am no Magic Arcanum. However, I know a lot.
Magic Arcanum is insane, but I've learned a lot just from talking with Jason till the wee hours of the morning about Magic lore. And I would love for him to share that with all you guys, so we can do Jason's lore corner, like a 2-minute segment or just a random tidbit, like how great Obnixilus is as a character.
Absolutely, I will rant on that man.
We have to wait until he's a mafia boss, then we can talk about him.
I'm not sure how I feel about that one, but I look forward to it either way.
And then one thing we could do, we talked about maybe deck building on the podcast, talking about maybe building some off the wall decks, and talking about those, or just talking about some commanders on the quote unquote Zur scale, which is something Jason did years ago. If you want to go into that a little bit.
Yeah, as a brief detail on it. So me and one of my friends from my university, we created something called the Zur scale. If you are familiar with Mark Rosewater's Storm scale or Rabia scale, those are scales about reprinting and set design. And we were talking about commanders kind of as a power level thing. We named it Zur because Zur is one of those commanders who's really hard to build and introduce into any metagame without him immediately having a warping effect. Is this a little bit misplaced in Zur? At this point, yes. But at the same time, Zur is still one of the commanders that I would put as a 9 or 10 on that power scale, for example.
So that's another recurring segment. But overall, just really, I want to hear from you guys personally. I'd love to hear more about what's going on with our community that we are starting to grow and get some feedback on what we're doing. We did a few community posts about different commanders you want to see on the channel, which we have been looking at quite a bit. And I've started trying to brew a list or two. I know Logan's reached out to a few of the comments, and he put we recorded with a Tivash deck and a Ruxa deck. He's gonna have Lind. Ruxa's insane. That card really impressed me.
Ruxa did good. I was impressed.
I mean,
Doesn't
it has
it
3
have,
different abilities on it.
Like, doesn't
Yeah.
it have an EWIT on an ETB and attack?
For
for-
non-ability creatures.
For a bear.
Yeah.
This bear ain't like the other bears.
It's a 4/4.
Is a 4/4 that gets things back, makes things assign combat damage as if they weren't blocked.
Oh, it's
Just
just
yeah,
casual,
no, that's how
casual anthem as well, you know.
and a casual anthem just thrown on it. Like,
Is he playing
the
grizzly
card-
bears in the deck? Like actual
don't
grizzly
know.
I
bears?
think so, no.
But he needs
That's
to.
unfortunate.
No, when he plays Avengers into car.
Hey,
Those
I
plants
got-
don't have abilities.
they don't. He had doubling season when Avengers in the card made 14 plants. We killed the Avengers before he got extra tokens on or extra counters.
Mhm.
But I died to 3 worms from sandworm convergence and 14 plant tokens.
Seems
For
decent.
like 29 damage.
Yeah.
It was not so. And we can also talk about another thing would be talking about our videos on Smooth Brain, right? We've
Absolutely.
had a lot of videos that I would love to kind of go back and reminisce on a little bit.
Mhm.
Obviously, the Brea video, that was kind of insane. I was just getting shit from everyone at the table. Was like, okay, Ethan, what the fuck are you doing? And just everyone like getting up to go get pizza while I was playing.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
I was in that game.
But was that the time we got wings or pizza? I can't remember.
I don't know. But going
then
off that,
Fast food was acquired.
Food was
Talking about-
acquired.
talking about the decks from those games, like
Talking about the
our
decks
thought
and or
processes.
the gameplay quirks would be interesting. For instance, your insurrection. Was it insurrection?
Oh,
What was the card?
No,
Mob
it
roll?
was mob rule.
Oh yeah.
I've had 2 really cool sequences on the channel. I had the Obeka one where I ended your turn on your upkeep, and then
I hate
immediately
you for that.
won. I'm not gonna not do it though. Wait,
we
no,
don't wanna delve
I
too much.
ended Chandler's turn when he was like flunging to kill me. Then I ended your turn on your upkeep.
I sat there for a good 30 seconds, like, what? Why? And then you were like, okay, now I'll win. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, we got it happens. But I got plenty more. I'd love to just reminisce on a little bit, but we'll save those for future episodes. I don't know how to end these things. I know how to end an intro and a video, but I don't know how to end a podcast. But thank you guys all so much if you got this far in the podcast, thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
we love the support. We love everything we gotten to do with this channel, and we hope to bring you guys more content in the future. Reach out to you guys more, and we're just so thankful to be able to do this, and it's just for fun. But we love this. We love doing this so much.
I was gonna say, yeah, we love talking about Magic. We look for excuses to talk about it. And if you guys have any suggestions, any ideas for commanders that we should play or you want us to try, let us know, and we'll do what we can.
Reach out to us.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Once we get that Discord server in particular,
it'll be available.
we're going to be active on it.
Theoretically.
I will.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Jason's giving us shit for not posting on Twitter enough.
especially with you being in DC, that's a really good outlet for you to.
Hey, did you just dox him?
Oh, did I do you?
Oh no! Oh well.
Oh
Oh no! Sorry.
no! We haven't said where we're even at yet, but that's a secret for now.
Mm.
Gotta get the next episode to find out where we are.
Alaska.
Damn it! we went from Knoxville to Alaska to DC. World traveling.
Yep, definitely.
Yep.
But again,
Alright.
thank you guys for listening.
And we'll catch you guys here in 2 weeks. Signing off.
Bye.
Bye.